So, good morning, everybody, again. I think I talked to everybody as they came into the chat this morning, but if I missed you, just remember that it is very important that you should have received by now, you absolutely should have received your exam ticket in your email. Okay, your e-ticket should have come by now. If you have not received that e-ticket, at this point, and either if you're in this video right now or you're watching it later, this is important. If you have not received your e-ticket yet, you need to reach out to me. I don't know how much help I can give you other than giving you the phone number to call the College Board, but it is essential that you have that e-ticket by now. That's how you're going to be able to log into the exam tomorrow, beginning at 1:30. Okay, so please, please, please make sure that you can access that email. I know we had a student yesterday I was speaking to who was locked out of their email, but we got that settled and he was able to get his exam ticket emailed to him. So you want to make sure that you're able to get that ticket, okay? And you want to make sure that you can log in tomorrow beginning at 1:30, okay? So that is that. And like I said, yesterday we talked a lot about how to organize your notes, things you can do to prepare. Today we're going to spend most of the time talking about how to earn the points for working with the documents, so your evidence and your argument points, because that, as I'll show you in a couple minutes, can account for anywhere from 6 to 7 points that you can earn. So we'll do that, and then I will answer any and all questions that you have after that. Now, remember that the way it's going to work tomorrow, okay, we will have a class, or I will be on here from 11 to 12. You can come in, and tomorrow is all about you. You can ask me any last minute questions that you have, anything that you want to review. Tomorrow I'm here for you. So I don't have anything specific planned, any specific lesson or anything. Tomorrow is just going to be helping you, with any last minute studying, any last minute questions or review that I can go over with you. So tomorrow at 11 is going to be all about you. Okay, and then we're going to have a second session tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock. And that 6 o'clock session tomorrow evening is, again, for you guys to come in here and say whatever you want to say about the test. Okay, you can, it's like your open forum tomorrow night to complain, to tell me how well you did. I heard that the AP Psych exam yesterday was very, very easy. I actually heard from 2 different students who told me that they think that they easily got a 5. So let's all hope and pray that you get the same situation tomorrow at 2 p.m. for your world history test. But again, tomorrow at 6 o'clock, I'll be on here. I want to hear all about the test, hear what you think went well, what you think didn't go well. We can all find out tomorrow how many different prompts there were, and we can see, what you all had to write about. Okay, so that's tomorrow at 6. Obviously, both of those sessions are completely optional. Don't feel obligated to come. I'm not recording either session tomorrow. These are just live sessions, so we're not going to post it anywhere. So again, you can feel free to say what you want to say tomorrow night about the test, because it will not be recorded and or posted anywhere. Okay. All right. So today, oh, here comes Alicia. Let me let her in before we start. So today we're going to focus on earning those evidence points. And the reason that I chose to do this the day before the exam is because this is where you can earn the most points. This is kind of like the most bang for your buck in terms of points. And if you can earn these points, you are well on your way to a passing score. So let me pull up the rubric for a minute, okay? And let me show you exactly what it is I am talking about, okay? So we've discussed the thesis, we've discussed the contextualization, that's 2 points, okay? But then if we come over here to the evidence section, okay, you will see how many points we can earn for the evidence, and then later for the sourcing, okay? That's 6 out of the 10 points. We can get 5 points here for evidence, potentially, and then a 6th point, or rather a 7th point, 6 and 7 points over here for the sourcing. okay? And then we have the unicorn point over here. But potentially between evidence and sourcing, we can earn up to 7 out of the 10 points on the exam. So if there ever was going to be an area for you to focus on and focus on doing well, this would be that area, okay? And so that's why I decided that for the day before the test, this was the part of the rubric that I wanted to really focus on and kind of give you some hints and some tips on, okay? So let me show you what we're going to do now. I'm going to go through this PowerPoint fairly quickly, okay? And then if you have questions as we go through this, you can type them in the chat and I'll get to them, you know, every so often, okay? So the first part of the evidence point is how to argue with the documents, okay? How can we use the documents to argue back and forth with each other? There are 3 possible points that you can earn for this, okay? So there's 3 different ways to earn points here, okay? The first point, and this is the point that I think is the easiest one, and it's the one that most people are going to get, is when you describe the content of the documents. Okay? Now, the very easy way for you to do this is to simply include a sentence that says document number whatever says, and then tell me what it says, okay? So you're simply describing the contents of that document without quoting it. Don't quote it here, okay, but simply tell me what it says. This is just like a description of the document. So this would be like, I'm going to use an example of the hammer and nails, like I have over here, okay? And so here is my example, right? If I were to describe the hammer, okay, I would say that it had a plastic base, and then most of it is metal, okay? It's kind of a silver color, but then the metal at the top takes on more of a black color. And then I would say that the nails are also a silver color. They're also made of metal. They have a pointed end and a round top. That's a description of the hammer and nails, okay? The same way that when you write a sentence that says document whatever says, that's a description of the document. So that's how you're getting that first point, okay? As long as you're making sure that you're not quoting, you're gonna get the point there. So that's one of the easier points to earn, okay? But now if you wanna get the second point for this, you're gonna have to take it a step further. So yes, we are making sure that we're describing the contents of the document without quoting it, okay? Now, in order to earn that second and potentially that third point, we have to take it a step further. We have to include another sentence that follows that says something like, this shows that, and then you're going to explain to me what it shows, okay? And that's where the second point will come from, because that's how you're going to explain to me how the contents of the document relate to your argument or relate to your thesis. That's extremely important, okay? So if you think about this, you're going to get the first point for just describing the content of a document. That's an easy point to earn. Almost every student who makes an attempt usually earns that point, okay? You get the second point and later on the third point for this, for including another sentence that's gonna say, this shows that. Now, obviously that's a very simple way of writing it, okay? You know, it's not something that's going to be published in a book, but it gets the job done. And in 45 minutes, you know, we are not looking for you to write the greatest piece of historical writing ever. We're looking for you to earn points. And so we're looking for you to do things that are going to get the job done. And that gets the job done by saying this shows that. All right, so let me walk you through an example of what this might look like. Okay, let's say our prompt has something to do with evaluating the extent of the causes of imperialism in the 1800s. I don't know, something to do with imperialism in the 1800s, okay? So that's my prompt, okay? And so my topic sentence, so now we're jumping to our body paragraph. Let's say that the topic sentence for this body paragraph is that one of the main motives for imperialism was economics. So that's something that I pulled out of my thesis. Okay, and I'm using that as the topic sentence for this body paragraph. Okay, great. So we're on our way. Now we're going to use document 1, okay, fictitious document 1. In order to describe the document, I would say document 1 says that cotton imports to Britain from America were drastically decreasing. So Britain began looking to India for cotton, okay? That's a description of what the document says. Obviously, we haven't looked at the document, okay? But that's a description of what this fictitious document says. That would earn me one point, okay? So there is my first point, because I've described the contents of that document. Now, if I want to go ahead and earn that second point, okay, I'm going to have to take it a step further. And so then what I do is now I explain how this relates to my argument, which is that one of the main motives for imperialism was economic. How do I explain that? Well, I do this. I say, this shows that the need for raw cotton was one of the main reasons that the British sought to expand their influence in India. Otherwise, they would be forced to stop textile production, which would hurt them economically. So now I've related the contents of this document to my argument, and that's how I would get the second point here. Now, in order to get the third point, you do that again for another document, okay? So that's what you need to be doing in this section for the document and for the argument, okay? And so if you think about the sort of beginning structure of your body paragraph, right? You're going to start with a topic sentence. You're going to go to the contents of your document. You're going to make your argument, okay? And then that's where we're at right now. The two things that would follow this next would be sourcing and then outside evidence. And so if you think of those 5 things collectively, that's what's, you know, what you would need to include in a body paragraph, okay? In order to earn those points. So again, if we jump over here, right, and we go ahead and we look at the rubric again, oops, let me share the screen with you. So if we jump over here, okay, and we go to look at the rubric, okay, here is our evidence point. So this point over here uses the content of at least 2 documents to address the topic of the prompt. Okay, that's the description. So that's the first thing. If you do that for 2 documents and you do what I just showed you to do, you get a point. The argument piece is the second point. Okay, so you get the second point if you, include that this shows that, and you do that properly for at least two of the documents. The third point is you have to do both of those 2 things above for 4 of the documents. Now, if you're using the 2 document method, this is a point that you're not even bothering with, okay? Remember, this is one of the 2 points that you're not even going for. So if you're using the 2 document method, then you're forgetting about this point, okay? Or you're only coming back to it at the end after you finished everything else. So that's where those points are coming from. All right, now, I just got a question in the chat. Is docs and conts all one? I don't know what CONTES means, all one. So you're gonna have to retype that. I don't know what that means. I'm happy to, oh, contents. Okay, are docs and contents all one? I still don't quite understand what you mean. The documents, what do you mean by, I'm not clear. Elias, can you type that and kind of explain to me what you mean? I don't mean when you say they're all one. Okay, so rewrite the question and we'll come back to it in a couple of minutes. Okay, so let me jump back to this. So here's where we were. Okay, so what I was saying to you is that if you're thinking about how you're going to structure these paragraphs, think about each paragraph being 5 different parts, right? You're starting with a topic sentence, then you're going into the contents of a document, then you're making an argument, then you're going to go to your sourcing, and then finally to your outside evidence. And so now we'll jump into the sourcing part. For the sourcing, you can earn this year 2 points for sourcing. You get a point for each document that you do it for. So you have to source 2 documents. Remember that sourcing can be either the historical situation, the audience or the intended audience, the purpose, and then the point of view. So remember, this is either HIP or HAP, depending on which acronym you would prefer to use, okay? I think a key misconception that some people had the other day that I hope I have corrected, and I'll make the point again here, is that you only have to do one of these 4 things for each sourcing. Okay, so to get the sourcing point, you don't have to go through all 4 of these. You only have to do one of them. So pick the one that you think makes the most sense, is the easiest to do, and fits in the best with your argument. Okay, you don't have to do all 4 of these. I think that's a big misconception. I'm going to walk you through right now how to do all 4, but know that on the exam tomorrow, you only have to pick one of these to do for each of the 2 documents that you choose to source. Okay, and so we'll start with the historical situation. Oftentimes, this is the easiest one for students to do, but you have to be careful here. Okay, and I'm going to show you why. So we know that for the historical situation, you are taking the document, okay, or the information, and you're placing it in a larger historical context. You're telling me what is happening at that time that would have informed this particular document. Okay, so you're placing it in the larger historical context. For example, okay, let's say your prompt is something about textile production in England during the 1800s. Okay, if you were going to use historical situation for this, you might say, this was an era of great industrialization within Europe because blah, 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 blah was happening. Okay, you have to do it that way. You can't just say something like, this took place during the Industrial Revolution. That's not going to be enough to get you the sourcing point. Okay, you're going to have to take it a step further. So you're going to have to tell me, well, what exactly was happening? What does great industrialization mean? Tell me what was happening. So talk to me about the movement away from cottage industries and the movement to the factories. Okay, talk to me about the migrations out of the rural areas into the cities because the people could find work there. Those are the things that you're going to have to mention in your sourcing in order to get those points. So it's just a matter of making sure that you're being specific, okay? And in the case of this example, explaining to me, how does textile production fit in with the Industrial Revolution? How are those 2 things related? Okay, the second part for sourcing, okay, is going to be about the audience. This one I think is also something that could be fairly straightforward, okay, and something depending on the document could be pretty easy to do. Okay, so this question, what you're going to ask yourself is, how or why does the audience matter to the interpretation of the document? Now let me give you an example for this. Okay, let's say we have 2 documents that are both written by the same politician. Let's say Franklin Roosevelt. Okay, so we have two documents, both written by Franklin Roosevelt. In document 1, President Roosevelt, it is a speech that he gives at one of his rallies, and he says whatever, we'll call it X. Okay, document 2, also written by President Roosevelt, is a letter that he's written to a friend, and in that letter he says Y. Okay, now let's pretend for a minute that X and Y are opposites. So now we have an example of President Roosevelt saying one thing at his rally and something completely different in his private letter to his friend. Okay, so if we're going to source this properly for audience, okay, we would talk about how he's more likely to tell the truth in his private letter, because this is a correspondence that's personal and it's private. Okay, it's not something that he expects a lot of people to hear about. He's more likely to tell the truth there. That is how we would source that for audience. Okay, we would note the differences and we would explain how the fact that in his private letter, because he's writing to a friend, he's more likely to be honest. That's something that would get you the sourcing point for audience. Okay, so we might say something like, the author was reaching out to his good friend in a private letter, stating his honest opinion in hopes of receiving good advice. That's going to get you the point for sourcing there, because you're explaining how the audience is relevant to what that document, in this case, a letter, says. Okay. Our third one is purpose. This one's a little trickier to do. Okay. So for purpose, it's kind of a little bit harder because it's so broad. We're thinking about, what was the document intended to do? Okay. Now this gets into be a little bit more nuanced. For our example here, we're going to use Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. Okay. And so, we've all read at least a part of that at some point in our lives. So we know a little bit about that. Okay. Here's why I say this gets a little tricky, because purpose is not the same thing as content. In order to get the point for purpose, you can't simply describe to me the content of the document. You have to explain to me the purpose. As I said, they're two different things. Let me explain. Okay, the content of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech is that white and black people should be equal. Okay, everybody knows that. And, you know, we've read this speech again, I think, starting back in elementary school. We all know that. Okay, that's the content of the I Have a Dream speech. That's not the purpose. So if you simply think that you're sourcing that speech and you said Martin Luther King is saying white and black people should be equal, you're not going to get the sourcing point. Okay, you need to explain to me what the purpose of that speech was. And so you would have to say that the purpose of the I Have a Dream speech was to show the powers that be, in this case the government, show the powers that be that they will not rest or will not stop until equality is achieved. That's the purpose. Okay, so the purpose is that they're going to keep fighting, they're going to keep working until equality is achieved. Okay, so again, note that the content and the purpose are not the same. And in order to get the sourcing point here, you have to be very clear about what the purpose is, not simply describe
Chromebook underscore 15 AD.
All right, the last one is the point of view, the POV. Okay, this is the trickiest one. If you're going to do this and you're going to do it well, you have to remember one very important three-part sentence, and that is, why does the author say what they say in the way that they say it? So why is he or she saying this in this particular way? Okay, and that's it's three parts, and this is what you have to remember if you're going to try to source for POV. Now, a couple of key points or notes about this. Number one, historical situation, okay, is the one that's going to most often earn this point, followed by purpose, okay? The point of view is the one that is most often missed, okay? So just keep that in mind, that the easiest one to earn for sourcing is going to be what the historical situation is, whereas the point of view is going to be the one that is most often missed. The other key point to remember here is that you have to explain if you're going to do the audience, okay? If you're opting to go for audience, which is, you know, a straightforward enough point to earn for sourcing, you want to tell me, why is the audience important to the information in this document? Don't just tell me who the audience is. You have to tell me why that audience is important, okay? So don't just tell me, for example, that he's writing a letter to his friend, okay? All you're doing there is you're naming the audience. If you want to get the point, you have to take it a step further and say, because he's writing to his friend, he's very likely expressing his private thoughts and his honest opinion. Therefore, we can probably trust the contents of this letter. That's how you'll get the sourcing point, okay, if you're going to go for audience. So you can't just name the audience, okay? And that's important there as well. All right, I'm going to pause for a minute. Because I see that there are some questions in the chat. Okay. All right, Alejandro, I'm glad you got your letter. Jan, I'm sorry your mail hasn't come yet. I'm sure it'll come later. All right, is the document and contents the same thing, or are they different? Okay, so the documents are the 5 documents that you're getting provided to you tomorrow. Content of the document is what the document says. Okay, so the document itself is the physical, you know, the actual writing that they did. Okay, it's what somebody's saying, it's what somebody wrote, or, you know, it's a map, or it's a whatever. The contents is when you tell me what's in it. Okay, and so no, they are not the same thing. And remember that you get a point for describing the content of the document, and then a point for explaining how that's relevant to your argument, okay? So that's where you earn those points there. Okay, so let's jump back into this. Again, if you have questions, just keep putting them in the chat, and we'll continue pausing to go look at the questions that are in the chat. Okay, so what I want to show you right now is I'm going to show you, this is important too, okay? I'm going to give you a bunch of sentence starters for sourcing. Okay, so if you're going to go ahead and source a document, you want to consider these sentence starters. And I'm posting this on the page today. I'm also posting a Word document with these sentence starters in it. This is a very easy way to start the sentence for your sourcing for two reasons. One, because it's going to clue the reader into what you're doing. And then two, because it's going to help you to say the things that are necessary to get that point. So for example, if you're going to source for historical context, start that sentence by saying, during this time, and then tell me what was happening during this time. At the time the document was written, and then tell me what was happening at the time the document was written. Or this was an era of, and tell me what was happening during that era. All of those sentence starters clue in the reader that you're sourcing for historical content or for historical context, and it'll help you make sure that you explain what you need to do, okay? If you're going to source for audience, this document was aimed for or was aimed at, or something like the author was reaching out to, and then tell me who they were reaching out to and why, obviously, okay? Will help you earn that point there. If you're gonna source for purpose, okay, you should start the sentence by saying the reason for this document is, or the author's intention was to, and then tell me what their intention was or what the reason for that document was, okay? And then finally for the POV, okay? From the author's perspective, or start the sentence by saying the author believed that, or the author felt that. Or my favorite one, which is the last one, considering the author was a blank, okay? And then tell me what they were. Considering the author was a Federalist, considering the author was an imperialist, considering the author was an abolitionist, whatever it was that they were. They likely felt that, and then tell me how they felt. All of these sentence starters will help set you up for earning that sourcing point, okay? And for getting set up and for being ready to, to be able to earn these sourcing points. Remember that you can earn 2 points for sourcing. You have to do it for 2 different documents, okay? And so again, if you're using the 2 document method, you're gonna source each of those 2 documents. And also remember again, you only have to pick one of these 4 things to do for sourcing. You don't have to do each one for each document, okay? All right, and so lastly, with our evidence is we're gonna talk about the outside evidence, okay? What we call, or what the rubric calls, evidence beyond the document. So let me jump back to the rubric for a minute and show you where we're at right now, okay? So now we're looking at these 2 points right here on the rubric. Notice that you can earn 2 points for this, 1 point for each type of outside evidence. So if you give me 1 piece of outside evidence, okay, and you do it well, as I'll show you in a minute, you're gonna earn 1 point. If you give 2 pieces of relevant outside evidence, you can earn 2 points. So you can earn 1 or 2 points here, okay? So let's go back and let's look at what this looks like. Okay, so for our outside evidence, okay, what this is specific historical evidence that is not mentioned in any of the documents. So this can't be something that comes up in one of the documents. It's called outside evidence for a reason, okay, or evidence beyond the documents. This is not something that you can find by looking at one of the documents. You also can't just drop in a random fact and think that it's outside evidence, okay? So you can't have a prompt about imperialism and be like, invention of the printing press, boom, and think that you're done and you've earned that point, okay? That's not the way that it works, okay? It must be relevant to both the prompt and to the argument. For example, okay, if the prompt is about European expansion, you cannot simply say the Columbian Exchange was going on at the same time. So you can't write that and be like, yeah, I got that point, man, I'm gonna pass. Okay, that's not the way that it works. You have to take that a step further. Yes, the Columbian Exchange is a relevant piece of outside evidence. It absolutely is, okay, and it's important. But in order to get the outside evidence point here, I have to explain how the Columbian Exchange relates back to my argument, okay, or how does it relate to my thesis. I've got to take it a step further, and I've got to be specific here with my argument. So what does that look like? Okay, you need to tell the reader how the evidence relates to and supports the argument and or your thesis. Okay, so for the Columbian Exchange, that means you're going to have to tell me what the Columbian Exchange was. You're going to have to talk about the fact that the horses came over here for the first time. Okay, talk about the fact that the Europeans brought potatoes and corn back to Europe, which may have led to a massive population growth. Okay, you're going to have to talk about the fact that all of this was happening, and then finish the sentence by saying, which caused a massive cultural exchange between the old and the new world. That's how you'll get the point here. So you'll say the Columbian Exchange was going on during this time period, which led to new plants and animal species being introduced to both Europe and to the New World. For example, Europeans brought horses to the New World for the first time, while new agricultural products such as potatoes and corn were brought to Europe. This led to a massive cultural exchange between the old and the new world. That is how you would get that point for outside evidence, okay? So it's important that you don't just say the Columbian Exchange was happening. You have to include all of those supplementary things that show the reader that you have an understanding of how the Columbian Exchange was relevant to this argument, okay? So, and again, if you do this twice, you're going to earn both points, okay? Because there's 2 points here for outside evidence. Okay, so let's stop and let's take questions at this point in time, okay? Oh, this is the old chat, okay, or the old questions. Does anybody have additional questions? Now is the time to ask them. Your exam is in 27 hours from now, so now is the time to ask questions. Nobody has any questions at all about any of this? This is 7 points right here that I just showed you. I just showed you how to get 7 out of the 10 points.
Sure.
6 if you're using the 2-document method. Go ahead, Alejandro.
So if we don't like set every paragraph up like that, we don't get the points.
What do you mean by set every paragraph up like that?
Like how you just told us.
Okay, so you don't have to use those exact sentences, obviously.
Well, obviously not.
But you need to include all of that information, yes. So like if you're looking to earn the points for using the documents, you need to tell me what does the document say, and then how that relates to your argument, okay? Because those are points on the rubric for doing both of those things. And then if you want to earn the point for sourcing, you need to make sure you pick one of those 4 things, and you need to source it properly. And then if you're going to do outside evidence, you need to make sure that you do what I just showed you. So you don't necessarily have to start each sentence with those exact phrases, okay? But those are things that you need to be including, okay? I'm giving you all these phrases and all these sentence starters because I'm trying to make it easy for you to do this tomorrow. I don't, obviously, is this going to be the greatest piece of like writing that you've ever produced? No, because you only have 45 minutes to do the whole thing. But if you're using these sentence starters, okay, it's not elegant, it's not beautiful, but it gets the job done, and it's going to get you the points that you need tomorrow. So that's what you want to do, okay? You want to make sure that you're earning points here. Remember, you only have 45 minutes for this entire thing, so don't worry so much about your prose, okay, being beautifully written. Make sure that you're banking as many points as you can. Okay, if you're doing the 2-doc method, is it 3 or 4 paragraphs? If you're doing the 2-document method, and again, I would advise you only to do this if you've watched the video and you understand how to do this. It would be a 3-paragraph assessment, because it would be 1 paragraph for your contextualization and your thesis, 1 paragraph doing all those things we just talked about for one of the documents, and then 1 paragraph doing all of those things we just talked about for a second document. But again, once again, only attempt the 2-document method when you've watched that video, because it walks you through step by step exactly what you have to do and how to structure it and what to include and what to not include, okay? So if you're doing the 2-document method, please watch the video all about the 2-document method. Okay, Other questions that people have. Alejandro, did I answer your question adequately?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So again, I'm showing you ways to write these sentences and set up these paragraphs so that it's easier for you. Okay, this is all about me trying to make this easier for you. Obviously, tomorrow at 2 p.m., I'm not going to be on Zoom, you know, looking at what you're writing to make sure that you're following this particular structure. Okay, I'm just trying to come up with ways to make it easier for you. Okay? All right, what other questions do we have? Do we not have any other questions? So you guys are all set for tomorrow then? Okay, so remember that tomorrow I'm going to be on here at 11 o'clock, okay? And tomorrow is all about your questions. So if you're coming tomorrow, come prepared with your questions about anything, even if they're technical questions, okay? So you're still struggling getting into your email or something, or you know, any last minute, anything that we can help you with. Tomorrow, I am coming on here at 11 o'clock to answer your questions, okay? And then at 6 o'clock, we are meeting on here to just discuss what happened on the exam, talk about how we did, just kind of debrief, okay? All right, so I'm gonna let you guys go now then. Good luck with your last minute preparations. I know I was talking to some students this morning who were telling me things that they were doing with their notes. A couple students said that they were highlighting things in their notes and they were color coding them. A student earlier this morning told me that she was working on some index cards, okay, of different topics. So again, organize everything in whatever way is going to work best for you. All right, so that's going to be it for today. As always, just like Jorge and Mika always remind me, make sure to like, share, subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Tap that bell icon, and I will see you guys tomorrow morning, all right? Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.